What internet marketing expert should you spend your valuable time listening to? Listen to someone who has over 20 years of web marketing experience and hundreds of website marketing success stories. That man is Aaron Sparks from Site Strategics. And this is Edge of the Web Radio.
Well, we are privileged to have a guest on our show that is a thought leader in the realm of social media consumer intent, the VIP of platform products for Swipp Inc. Hello there. This is Christopher Carfi. Hello, sir.
Hi. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thanks for coming on.
And it's for everybody. It's swipp.com,
Yep.
SWIPP. And then there's a great mobile app that it's free to download. And maybe Chris, maybe you can start off by telling us what Swipp does and why you started it.
Yeah, happy to. So we had the insight that there was the opportunity for a new layer for the web. So if you look back a couple years ago, way back when Google was starting, they realized that something as simple as a link from one web page to another sort of counted as a vote. And from that, they built PageRank, and all sorts of interesting things have happened. The entire industry built up around that.
You
go out a couple years beyond that to something like Facebook, they realized that we had our lists of contacts in our phones, but if those were liberated out from our phones, put into a platform, the idea of the social graph of who all of our connections and contacts was the basis for a new industry, and we see what has happened from there. And the realization that we had, and sort of the theory that we are working toward, is that understanding what an individual thinks about a topic or a brand or a product or an interaction at a point in time, that grouping of information, the sentiment around how somebody feels about something is itself a fundamental piece of the web in the same way that PageRank and the social graph are. And so from that insight, we built a platform that allows individuals and businesses to capture and share and understand the sentiment around, frankly, anything in a way that we haven't seen anybody else trying to do before.
And right now on the web, it's and of course we've spent time with Chris, and he's a new client with us now. We should say, full disclosure there.
You actually hired these guys, Chris?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Oh boy.
So the exciting thing is that when you look at the web and you look at the way that people are getting feedback right now, it's likes, retweets, followers, fans, all of these, it's all, plus ones, right? Google, right. It's everything's a plus.
Right, exactly.
But there's no scale to it. There's nothing saying whether you're improving. If you get more likes this week than you got last week, does that mean that you're doing a better job? There, you don't know. There's no context to it, and so the exciting
that's
thing,
the only action people have.
Exactly.
Right.
The only action that they can take is that press.
Right.
Press it.
Right.
So the exciting thing for me with Swipp is that it's both ways. Now people can put a scale to, and the positive is just as important as the negative, and a negative doesn't necessarily, Chris has educated me that doesn't necessarily mean negative. You're talking about, a certain company that is disliked, or an activity that maybe you want to look at the scale of how bad someone, doesn't care about that or dislikes it. So,
Right.
So having that scale is something that's new. We haven't had that on the web outside of these terrible surveys that that people put out everywhere. This is a nice interactive slide, that just a nice quick androgynous smiley face or frown, that you can slide back and forth. I think it's really cool.
Just to kind of riff on that for a second, sort of the state of the art for this type of capture has been the like button over the past few years. And the interesting thing there is, yes, you can get a like on a brand page or a product page and the like. But the interesting thing is, a lot of times, one, that just means that someone has clicked the like button, it doesn't necessarily mean that they actually like the thing that strongly. But more interestingly is what happens when somebody doesn't click that button. It doesn't give us any of the information we need to understand whether, one, the person dislikes that thing, or are they neutral, or did they just not see it and have the opportunity to. There's complete lack of information other than the fact that occasionally somebody clicks that button. And what we're trying to get at is a way of capturing that information in a much richer way. And as Doug was alluding to, we think from a design perspective, we've cracked the code on how to do it in a way that is gender neutral, it is racially neutral, it's geographically neutral, and really is a truly international way of looking at solving the problem.
And Chris, along those lines, as marketers, I'm sure we've seen many companies that would even do things like, to get this particular content, you have to like our Facebook page.
That's right.
In that context, I think the act of liking something becomes almost irrelevant.
It's a key just to get the coupon.
Right.
And secondly, we as marketers scramble when we start to deal with the fact of unliking.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no thumbs down button.
Yeah.
That's right.
How do we process that information as marketers?
What you're starting to develop here is creating a topographical map of sentiment on particular issues, particular causes, and particular products. You can actually see a pendulum of attitude from consumers as opposed to an on-off binary type of switch.
And you can look at it over time.
Yep.
So you can see whether you're actually whether attitudes are actually improving or decreasing. If you get if you Swipp a certain topic that you're a product. 6 months later, if there's advancements in the product, you can Swipp it again and see whether there's actually been a change in people's attitudes with it, rather than just guessing, whether there has.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, a really good example of that is over the last couple of weeks, we saw quite a bit of conversation around Angelina Jolie based on the surgery that she disclosed that she had. And the company and our first consumer app back in the January timeframe. Since then, we've launched our commercial and business and marketer-oriented offerings as well. But when we first launched the consumer app, the sentiment around Angelina Jolie was neutral to middling at best, and in some cases even a little bit negative. And last week, when she came out, said she had this preventative surgery done and such, the sentiment was very strongly positive around that. And so to the point that was made a couple of seconds ago, that ability to actually track things over time and be able to see how particular events are affecting the market sentiment around a product or a brand is really, really important. And even drilling down to a closer level, if you have a particular individual who has historically been, say, very positive, and then Swipp something a -3, that might be someone that you want to reach out to say, okay, wait a minute, here's somebody who has historically been very, very positively predisposed to us, and now all of a sudden they probably had some sort of experience that we need to learn about to find out what's going on.
That's a great example. And I actually looked up Angelina Jolie, and lifetime Swipp was plus 3.4, and it's still trending upwards with 37 Swipps today at plus 5s. So yeah, to your point, it's really had a huge impact on.
I'll give Angelina Jolie a Swipp. That's not a problem whatsoever.
And Chris, to your point, that she let the world know about her decision, her surgery, through the New York Times.
Right.
And when I read the article, I actually was thinking about Swipp, because imagine using Swipp in the context of content that you're actually putting out there as a business or whatever, to actually, be able to immediately get that type of unambiguous feedback from consumers of content or information.
It's immediate polling.
It represents, I think, a seismic shift in the capabilities that we've all been looking for.
And we've got a number of those examples that we can talk through as well.
Excellent. Well, you're listening to Edge of the Web Radio. We're talking to a thought leader in understanding social media and consumer intent. It's Chris Carfi from Swipp. Go ahead, sir.
And so we have, to Marty, to your point, we have seen a couple of examples come online over the last couple of weeks as well that really tie to that content marketing side of the world as well. So we've seen, actually as recently as today, the folks over at Autodesk have put Swipp on their Autodesk 360 blog. So if you go over to that blog, you'll start to see some of their posts where they're actually integrating that question and that sentiment gathering aspect into the work that they're doing. And also the folks over at Blog Her do a weekly poll from their research department. Last week's was around shopping. This week's was around summer movies. And the shopping one that they did last week was very, very interesting because they had a more traditional type of poll around the types of items that people might want to go shop for. But then they added Swipp to that piece of content to ask a very particular question, which was, what are your attitudes? What do you feel about shopping from your smartphone? Because they're trying to understand for their business, what is the trend towards mobile as a shopping platform, and being able to look at the various types of feedback that they were getting to that particular Swipp, that particular question, and especially the breakdowns over time and, more interestingly, by geography as well, was very, very insightful in being able to see the different ways that different constituencies think about that topic based on geography in that case.
Oh, that's fantastic amount of data analysis that you can provide customers. I tell you what, as we're coming back into this segment, we'd love to talk to you more about this. Can you stay on another segment, Chris?
Certainly can.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, we're going to be coming right back with Christopher Carfi from